So as people are getting their towels, I'm just going to remind everyone we are in session 5, and today is all about transformation. So we're going to look at growth, grief, and transformation. And Carolyn, welcome. We're just getting started. So as you welcome. We're just getting started. And the request was if you have a towel or a piece of fabric, that's going to be really important before we jump into the centering practice. So welcome, settle in, and we'll get started in just a moment. Okay, so Sarah, you've got your towel, your fabric. Okay, all right, that's perfect. Yeah, this is something we want to kind of like squeeze. Okay, so we'll wait for David and Carolyn. Wendy, you're good. You've got your towel, your fabric. What does everyone have? I'm just kind of curious. Like, okay,
Owl.
cool. You've got a towel. I've got a towel. It's like a little bath towel.
I want to say
Sarah, what
something.
is that? Is that like
No,
a
it's a hair. It can move
headband?
a
Okay,
headband.
yeah, cool. Okay, and Carolyn, you've got like I'm just kind of curious. This is so cool. It's like
The
got
napkin.
like a different style. David, what did you towel? Okay, cool. All right, excellent. Oh,
Oh,
when yeah, you've got your dog. Is that your dogs or just kind of like the kind of dog that you have?
It's just the kind of dog that I have.
Okay, I didn't know if
Cavaliers.
like you could actually
Yeah.
get pictures of
It,
your
it,
dog.
it could be them. Yeah.
You probably could. Okay, all right. Thank you. Thanks for taking that pause. And we are recording now as well. So we're gonna jump into a short centering practice, and then we're gonna move into a practice called spirited commitment to dignity. And we're just gonna flow. We might stop for a mood check and we'll flow into this practice, and then we'll do some more processing. We'll get a chance to really talk. Um, so yeah, let's just arrive. Let's arrive. So if you want to stand, I'll give you a few seconds to kind of shift your space around. If you feel comfortable being seated, go ahead and remain. Really important, no matter what position you're in, just take a look at your feet and make sure they're both planted on the ground and that they're hip width distance apart. And notice like the settling, right? Notice gravity kind of taking hold and see what's alive right now. Like what's the quality of your breath? And just notice if it's shallow. I'm kind of breathing fast, right? I tend to do that when I facilitate. So I'm going to try to go slow for y'all today. I'll see if I can do that. um, Feel into any kind of holding, pressure, temperature, sensation, and really notice the length of the body, right? So see how much you can notice from the tips of your toes to the top of your head, right? So just kind of go through a scan, right? Starting with the lower body. See what your knees are doing, right? Feel into, is there holding? I'm standing, so I was locking my knees. So if you're standing, just notice that. Um, Notice like your calves, maybe the backs of the heels, quads, hamstrings, go into your glutes, into your hips. What's here? What's here in the lower body? As you're noticing that, really kind of take a moment and take a breath in. And on the exhale from your hips down, you can put your hands on your hips. Just go ahead and send that exhale down from your hips through your legs and out through the soles of your feet. So again, take a nice breath in, and then go ahead and just exhale out in the same way when you're ready. And maybe at the bottom of the exhale, see if you can just go a little bit longer. See how much air you can kind of push out of the body. And then take it back in. Take it back in. And let's come back to hips and let's just come up the spine, right? So still feeling into your length. And from here, like base of spine to top of head, feel that dignity in your length. Feel the dignity in your length. And imagine, a string pulling you up towards the sky, and just see if you can feel for a little bit more space in between your vertebrae. Just feel for it. What does this do for your body? Holding your body in this dignified way. What does this make possible when you move through the world from center here in your length? Yeah. And again, notice like temperature contrast in your length from the tips of your toes. What's the temperature like down by your feet? And then moving all the way up to maybe the back of your head. What's the temperature like there? Is it the same? Is it different? And from here, just from our center, from our heart, that kind of superhero move where we're just extending and feeling into the space in between the right side of our body and the left side of our body, really feeling into your width, right? And see how much space you want to take up, right? Just honor what your body wants to do here. If it wants to move a little bit, if you've got some energy, just let that flow. If you're feeling kind of heavier and just kind of more lethargic, that's okay. You can keep your arms down. I really want you to imagine then, just really imagine the boundaries at your sides. And as you're feeling into those boundaries, right, on your next inhale, see how much air, right, how much air you can fill up inside of the body, like a balloon, right? Like you want to inflate it just a little bit more, right? See how much aliveness can come online for you doing this move. And again, like if you want to move, go for it, right? Do what your body wants to do. Right? That's somatics too, right? Like you want to dance a little bit, right? Like just let it be. Let it be. There's no right way. And similarly, like with your face as well, right? Both like in the width, like and the length. Just let it do what it wants to do. The invitation is to drop the mask. You don't have to smile, you don't have to do anything. It's just like just let your face kind of rest. And notice what that does for you. So we went from our length to our width. We also center in our depth. So sometimes I like this kind of like surfing move, where you can kind of feel for behind your body and you can extend towards that future, that horizon. So if that feels nice, you can do it. If you do yoga, it might feel like a warrior of some sort, right? So just kind of feel for what's behind you as you kind of extend towards that future, recognizing we're all right here in this present moment. So you can keep your arms like that if that allows you to kind of open into your depth and explore what's behind you right now. What are you noticing in the back part of your body? What's most accessible to you? Maybe it's the fabric on your back or your shoulder blades. Maybe it's if I have pants on, but maybe it's like feeling fabric on your calves. Just notice like what can you feel for what's behind you? And today we're really going to honor what's behind us, right? We're going to honor where we were 5 weeks ago, right? So feel for that version of yourself behind you. It's not super distant in the past, but just kind of feel for where you've been. And then right now, in this present moment, where are you right now? And come back into the body, right? If that feels a little abstract, maybe hand on heart, hand on belly. Come back into the body. Where are you right now? What can you feel for aliveness, right? Maybe it's a heartbeat. Maybe it's a pulsation in the belly. Maybe there's signs of digestion. Maybe it's something else. But feel for what's here. And then again, just an extension, right? An invitation to extend maybe one, both arms, just like how we do that embodied yes. Extend towards that horizon, extend towards that future, that vision that you've been writing about. Maybe you've been saying it every day, right? Feel for that and feel the dance. Feel for yourself in the present while kind of touching this future version that's emerging. Notice that. And then I want you all to come to your center. like the actual center of your body. So both hands underneath the navel. And the invitation here, right? It looks like everyone's on mute. You're welcome to unmute if you are feeling a little edgy today. And I want for us to say our commitments. So we can say our commitment, our vision, I am being. It might sound like I'm a commitment to, but this is what you've been working on, right? So go ahead. And if it feels safer to stay muted, go for it. But go ahead and say it out loud. I am a commitment to trusting my inner magic and surrendering to its power. Yeah. Go ahead and say it out loud.
I'm in the flow, living with ease and trusting my intuition.
Yeah. Thank you, Mary. Yeah. Giving space for other people. You're welcome to unmute if you'd like to. And if you want to keep saying it out loud, you're welcome to as well. We're going to be doing this more. So just practice it as you wish and feel for how your body organizes around that. Right? So this might be subtle. That question, you might not understand it, but just feel for your body. Maybe say your commitment out loud again.
I'm living in loving kindness and
Yeah, thank you, Amy.
offering forgiveness to myself and others.
Yeah.
Committed to making vulnerability-based connections with people in both my professional and personal life.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And feel for that. Feel for your commitment as you say it out loud. See how you're organizing around it. And listening to the other beautiful commitments that have been shared. Just notice if your body also responds to that. Maybe it resonates with what's being offered up. Really good work. Yeah. When you feel complete, right? Just notice in the body if there's maybe two feeling words that are popping up for you right now. Two feeling words. And I'd love just to go around and see where you're at. See where you're at. So two feeling words. And just trust what comes up, especially if there are contradictions, right? So I'm still with gratitude here and sorrow. Those are the two that are popping up for me. I guess that would be sadness, but yeah, that's where I'm at.
Choosing grace and gratitude.
Thank you, Wendy.
Calmer and grateful.
Thank you, Mary.
Excitement and dread.
Yeah. Thank you, David.
Can I share the commitment and then the two feelings? I didn't yet. Of feeling committed to being braver and being seen for actions and opinions, and just owning them. And the feelings for that are, I guess, self-compassion for the neglect on that side.
Yeah. Yeah, Sarah. Thank
Mine are unease and fear.
you. Thank you, Carolyn. Amy, would you like to go?
Said presence, but I maybe wasn't heard. Presence.
Presence. Yeah. I'm having a hard time hearing you, but it might be my
I'll switch to my headset and see if that helps.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.
Is that better? How's that?
A little bit better. A little bit better.
Good?
I can hear you. I'll just have to like lean in a little bit, but it might be my computer.
Okay, I'm gonna work on it.
Yeah, yeah. Just be here now. Be here now. We'll make it work. Okay, so now is the time for our towels. So I'll share a little bit about what we're doing, which is spirited commitment to dignity. So we're going to build on what we just did, right? We're going to build on our commitments. And the reason why we do this practice is to feel for the full intention and energy behind what we truly care about, right? So in this sense, it's like our commitments, our vision statement. And we're doing this while being actively supported. So this is a little bit different. And it's an opportunity to explore the fullness and the aliveness behind the vision, right? So we're really going to feel into the body in a way that's slightly different than just kind of like declaring, right? Declaring in front of the group our vision statement and noticing what this does in support as we do this together collectively. And the idea of we're building the competency for dignity, for that self-worth, right? The sense like we deserve, we're worthy of. Sometimes people don't like the word deserve because it feels like entitlement. So like I invite you to feel for dignity and the worthiness of investing the practice and the time to start to bring this vision into focus and to start becoming it, to being it. And you already are, right? So, and that's what we're going to explore today is like looking at our growth. And the last piece of why we do this is feeling for not fighting against, right? Again, like some of the behaviors, some of our old ways that might get in the way. It's really feeling for fighting for something that matters to us, right? So we're not fighting something to make the other thing stronger. It's like we're fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for our dignity, and see how that feels, see how that lands in the body. So just like a demo of the process is we'll have the towel and I'm going to be inviting you to twist it, right? I'm going to be inviting you to twist the towel in different ways to explore what it feels like to feel some friction, to feel some resistance in that fighting for, right? And I'll subtly match kind of how you're twisting. And then we're going to have a couple of debrief questions at the end, and we'll do that in dyads, so you can really explore like, wow, like I didn't imagine twisting a towel would, bring up some of the feelings that might come up here. Before we go into the practice, though, I invite you to write in the chat, and this is going to be helpful for me because I'm going to be trying to share what you need. In terms of when you're working towards something, when you're in something like this, a practice, are there words that support you, right? Like, so for example, when I do this practice, it's like, yeah, Rhodes, you can do it, keep going, like something like that, that this works for me. So really, really kind of check in with yourself right now. What's a request that you would have of someone in your corner, a coach, someone that supports you, of a word or a phrase, or maybe there's a move, like there's a nonverbal that I could be doing in this process. And so we'll have a bunch up on the screen, and that's okay. I'll be kind of sharing these out. So just kind of like check in, and in the chat, if you could write out a few things that feel good for you as we go through this process, um, I will do my best to honor that. Cool. Thank you, Carolyn. So you've got this, you can do this. Okay, so we've got that. Good job doing the nodding. There's no wrong way. I love it. Cool. Let go and deepen. Yes. Let go and deepen. Thank you for writing these out. It's going to be helpful. You're okay either way. Love it. As you all are writing, I'm gonna put my timer on. We're gonna do 3 rounds of this practice, and we're gonna do it for about 90 seconds. So thank you for your patience as I pull this up. Okay, I see. I'm here for you if you need. Trust yourself. I think we've got everyone, right? Carolyn, yes. Okay, cool. All right. So this is how we're going to do it. The first round, oh, awesome. Thank you, Amy. Trust yourself. Keep on, keeping on. There's a good song with that title. Okay, so we've got the words. Now in this first round, what we're going to do is you'll either say one of 2 options, right? And this is in the service of your commitment. You might be saying yes, like feeling that embodied yes of like, I'm fighting for this and I'm welcoming it in. Or you may be saying no to maybe some of those behaviors that are kind of getting in the way right now. So whichever of those 2 words are in service to you, that's the guidance. And when we begin, it's on for this first round, you can twist the towel with as much force or as little force as you want. I want the twist to ignite a sensation or a feeling that's in alignment with like, for example, if I'm doing the yes, it's like, yes, I'm really squeezing it because I want to feel it in my heart, right? So see what's in service for this first move, and we're going to build upon it. We're going to do 2 more rounds after this. So we'll just do 1 round. We'll pause. I'll give you another instruction, pause, another instruction, and then the debrief, if that makes sense. So before we get going, I just want to see, are there any questions, or is the rationale of why we're doing this? If there's questions on that, I want to pause and make sure that we're all, yeah, Amy.
I'm not totally clear. Could you help make the connection for me? And I don't know if anyone else needs it. Just we're practicing the feeling of yes in connection to when we're faced with, or are we actually going to be facing something? Is this a hypothetical?
No. It's you feeling for your dignity in the fight for your commitment. And so you get to choose the word. It could be a yes if you feel like you're welcoming it in, of like the fight for is a yes for you. Maybe the fight for is a no because there's things that are getting in the way. So you're in choice of what word will serve you to feel for your dignity in this practice of moving in the direction of your commitment. It's a little abstract now. I think in the debrief, there will be more connection. I just want to make sure that we're clear on like what we're feeling for right now.
Okay.
Does
Thanks.
that make a little more sense?
It does. It does.
Okay.
There's our commitment, and then we're trying to move towards it, or we're trying to feel dignity in relationship to our commitment, or the fighting for our commitment.
Yes. So I would say all of the above. It is feeling from center, right? So we're going to start staying in the centered place. We're feeling for the commitment, how we've just organized around it. And saying a word of yes, fighting for like, yes, I'm welcoming this in. And the squeeze on the towel is the fight for. You're trying to feel a fight for. Not that you're struggling, right? But like, what is it like to really invest the time to practice? What is it like to show up for yourself? And so this is what this is trying to create, a felt sense of that in the body. Okay. And we'll get a chance to debrief it. And there's no right or wrong. Just notice, the one thing I want you to notice is in the fight for, and we talked about this in the beginning of the session, if you start to notice like, I'm fighting for, and you start to feel off center, take a pause and come back to center and find your length, because we're really exploring dignity in the practice. Similarly, if you start to go away where you're like, I don't like fighting, I don't like this activity, come back to center and just notice what's coming up, and we'll get to debrief that as well. These are good questions, and it's a little abstract, I know, in the setup. And again, I hope in the debrief we'll see some value in the practice. Any other questions here before we get into it? Okay. All right. Thank you for that. Thanks. Okay. So let's go into this first round. Everyone has their towel. You can stay on mute, you can unmute yourselves. It's just repeat at your own cadence as you stay on center and feel for that length as you're squeezing. And so it's either a yes or a no. And we begin. So go for it. So I'd be like, yes, yes, and squeeze at yeah. So go for it. Make sure you're saying out the word out loud. It's all right, you've got this. You can do it. Good job. Good job. There is no wrong way. So let go and deepen. Let go and deepen. Let go and deepen. And you're okay either way. You're okay either way. I'm here for you if you need it. I'm here for you if you need it. Trust yourself and keep on keeping on. Trust yourself and keep on keeping on. You've got this. You can do this. You've got this. You can do this. Good job. There's no wrong way. There's no wrong way. Let go and deepen. Okay. So let's take a break. Let's just take a moment right here. We're going to try this again with a different prompt. So feel for your center right now and just see where you're at. See if you were on center as you were doing this first round, and just feel for that length again. Feel for dignity in the body. What did it feel like to have allyship? You know, were those the right words for you, right? And just kind of like feel for that. If there's any other requests that you have, you know, if the way that I'm saying, the tone or anything like that, you can pop it in the chat. This next round, what we're going to do is same thing with the twist, you know, maybe increase a little bit or decrease depending on if that felt good or not good. And this time I want you just repeatedly to say your commitment over and over again, right? On center, right? So you're fighting for it, right? So really feel in your body how you organize around it as you're experiencing some resistance, right? So this time, this does represent some pressure, right? So just kind of feel for, as I squeeze this, can I still remain in my center and my dignity as I'm doing the practice? Okay, does that make sense for the group? Okay, all right. So let's try this. So go for it. So just repeat your commitment over and over again with the squeeze. So you've got this. You can do this. You've got this. You can do this. And go ahead and say it out loud. Go ahead and say your commitment out loud. Yeah. Yes. Nice. Good job. There's no wrong way. Good job. There's no wrong way. Let go and deepen. Let go and deepen. You're okay either way. You're okay either way. I'm here for you if you need it. I'm here for you if you need it. Trust yourself. Keep going. Trust yourself. Keep going. And notice where you're at and your length. See if you're on center. Keep going. Keep going. You're doing a good job. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's been about 90 seconds. So really good job there. This is the last round. And so on this last round, what we're going to do is you're going to continue either saying your commitment out loud if that felt better than the first round of saying yes or no, or if you prefer the yes or no, you can go back to what you did the first round. The main difference here is there a movement that you can make while you're on center, right? So maybe you kind of want to move to the right or the left, you know, maybe you want to move forward. Just experiment. Like, does the body even want to move? So that's the invitation, is still while you're on center, saying your commitment out loud, saying yes or no, but does the body want to move in a particular direction? So just experiment here, and we'll go into it. All right. So Here we go. So go ahead and start saying your commitment out loud. And you've got this. You can do this. You've got this. You can do this. Good job. There's no wrong way. There is no wrong way. Good job. Let go and deepen. Let go and deepen. You're okay either way. You're okay either way. I'm here for you if you need it. I'm here for you if you need it. And trust yourself. Keep on keeping on. Trust yourself. Keep on keeping on. Really good. Really good with movement. Yeah. So just notice, does your body want to move as you do this? You've got this. Good job. Let go and deepen. You're okay either way. I'm here for you if you need it. Trust yourself and keep on keeping on. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. When you feel complete, go ahead and just come back to center and really notice your length here and feel for that dignity. Feel for what for feel for that dignity. And what I'd like to do is I want to give everyone the opportunity to debrief 4 questions that I'll put in the chat, and then I'll also share when you're in the breakout rooms, and I'll go over these now, and then we'll have a few more minutes when we come back together just to hear what came out of those discussions. So the first is, what did it feel like to hear the words that you requested to be spoken into the space as you were doing the activity? So that's the first piece. What is it like to fight for something that you're welcoming into your life, having the support that you're requesting? What are you noticing in the body as you do this, right? Maybe there's confusion. I don't know if I was doing it right. Or maybe there was something that kind of came alive for you that might spark something that's actually happening in your life as you're moving in this direction of your vision. What opens up for you as you practice fighting for the vision, right? So that's maybe a different way of saying that. And then how does this aliveness under pressure, right, with this towel, how does that serve your vision, right? So like, is friction helpful? Maybe sometimes it is, maybe sometimes it isn't. So these are the questions. And again, there's no right or wrong. There's really an opportunity to start to make some meaning about like what was felt as you did this activity. Okay, so I'm gonna do the breakout rooms, and let's see, we'll do, how many people do we have here? We have 6. Okay, so we'll do 3 breakout rooms, and someone will be with me. And okay, let me open them and we'll get started. Okay, so and you'll have 5 minutes. Oh, sorry.
You put it in the, oh, okay.
Yes, Sarah, you're with me. I think, or no,
Oh,
you're with Mary. Okay.
I'll join my
Okay,
room.
excellent.
Okay.
I'm going to do a little
5 minutes now.
broadcast. Okay. Hey, everyone, I forgot to mention we're going to do 5-minute. Hey, everyone, pardon for the interruption. I forgot to mention the person with the shortest hair, please speak first for the first 5 minutes, and we'll do that same active listening for the person with the longer hair, and we'll switch at 5 minutes. All right, happy debrief. Hello, welcome back. Hello, hello. All right. Hopefully the conversations felt somewhat complete. Um, yes. Okay, excellent. All right. I would love to hear from a few people around what came up in the conversation. And again, just to root that we are trying to build the confident competency of feeling for our dignity as we're fighting for what matters most to us. So I just want to kind of restate like the why behind doing this exercise, and also say if we were there are other ways to do this. Sometimes it is kind of like one-on-one, having like a bolster and a stick and literally like yelling your commitment as you kind of like are striking, the pressure before you. So there's lots of ways to simulate this, but it's really like what's the feeling that comes alive in the body. And so um I'm curious, like, what was it like for the ally? Did talking about allying with and hearing those words, did that come up? Or, yeah, I mean, there's no right way. I'm just kind of curious for if folks want to share a little bit of what they were able to talk about in their partnerships.
Well, I'll tell you that I could have kept talking to Amy for the rest of the afternoon. She was
Me too.
awesome.
Nice.
Um,
You know,
what the thing that came up for me was when I was doing the exercise, I didn't feel like I was fighting for anything, that I was, and I almost didn't, my muscles started to fatigue a little bit. And I felt like what I wanted to do was just to twist this a little bit and pull it into me. I felt like I
Mhm.
wanted to welcome it in versus twisting it and fighting for it. So maybe that was a different word,
Mhm.
like more like I wanted to be grabbing it, embracing it, and twisting it a little, because I am trying to twist the way that I am seeing my own practice and some of that,
Mhm.
but more about welcoming it in. And that felt really good. I did have other words of encouragement that were popping up in my own head in addition to the ones that you were sharing.
Mhm.
And I shared this with Amy that I kept hearing in my head, don't give up, miracles happen every day.
Mm.
And that just felt really, really encouraging to me. Not just you got this, but like be open to the miracles that could come from this. They happen every single day. So that's what I kind of wanted to share.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
Wendy, like writing that down, right? And like for the committed listeners in your life, like the people in your inner circle, that might be a request, right? For, hey, when I'm in something and I'm investing my time and being in spaces like these, I'd love to hear this, right? Or maybe in a moment where you could use some additional support. So really great noticing of like that kind of came in, and also the move that felt right for you of like fighting
Yeah.
for doesn't really resonate for me. It's still like that investment to make the space to welcome in this version of yourself. So I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Thank you. um, yeah, other folks, I'd love to hear from a few other people.
I'll just add on to what Wendy said. I took my little claw and I was just rubbing it gently,
Mhm.
like about the embodied love and kindness, and
Mm.
offering that to myself, just out to the world, just the gentleness, the strength it takes to be gentle when there's a lot of force around you. So,
And that's an alignment. Amy, could you share your commitment again with the group or the vision
commitment
statement? Yeah.
to the being of love and kindness,
Mhm. Mhm.
and offering forgiveness to committed to offering forgiveness to myself and others.
Yeah. 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 I'm curious, like for the move for you and also for Wendy, it sounds like the move was to kind of like be with the commitment. And I'm curious if that for other people, if that also came up, in how you were relating to the fight for and the kind of like the twisting of the towel.
For me, I felt like it didn't make a difference to twist the towel so much as just to ground myself by feeling the tactile of having something in my hands, because I can operate in a kind of not taking in the full breath of oxygen and being a little high up here as opposed to grounded. And so it helped me just ground and focus.
Yeah. Yeah. So this was a way to kind of be in the tissues when maybe you wanted to come up here and
Yes,
start kind
it,
of analyzing, am I doing it
Mm.
right? Or yeah,
yeah.
all the stories and the dramas. That's thank you for sharing that, Sarah. Yeah. Yeah, it's a way of being in the body and feeling that aliveness for what matters most to you. And that worked for you of just like, okay, I'm feeling going dropping into one of your senses. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, the words of encouragement were a fantastic juxtaposition to my constant negative self-talk.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting overlay to what the exercise was. Um, it was extremely supportive. And so it was just like always going in the background. I was not expecting that. That's really cool.
Oh
And
yeah.
then
Yeah.
the twist, I did the twist and that felt okay for me. It actually gave me a lot of strength. Like I felt like I was sharing that I feel like the I often fight against pressures that take me away from my center
Mm-hmm.
instead of working with them. So this helped me realize that I could work with it and get strength oddly from it.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what I was feeling, even though there was the twist and the like the determination and fight for it, there was strength within it because it was a I'm doing this, but not in a way that's like it's more like I'm doing this.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Mary, in that piece, that's really important just to reemphasize for the group, right? Where it's like when the pressure comes in, it's not the fighting through it or pushing it away or pushing it behind you. It's really the blend of like, okay, this is coming my way. How can I blend with it? And you're, in the vision and the commitment that you're working on, you're shaping yourself. And by doing that, right, I wish it would change the world instantly for you, right? And it is shaping the world around
Mm,
you, right? And so that's kind of, you did a great job of explaining and sharing what that means to you and
yeah,
feeling it, right? Feeling it in the exercise. Yeah. Thank you for sharing.
yeah.
And related to what Mary is sharing, in that third round, especially when you invited us to move our bodies, if we were so inclined, I was twisting as well. And um, I literally ended up moving my body forward as though, like Mary said, I was like
Yep.
using the twisting to sort of leverage me forward, as a power source. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of fighting against it, I was using it and ended up like the towel or the reins, and I was the horse. I was the jockey on the back of the horse, and we were going forward, and we were going towards the commitment, and
Mm,
yeehaw. So it felt good in that last round. Unlike Mary and maybe others, the sort of love bombing didn't work for me at all. It ended up being I heard my lines, but it ended up being white noise for me. It did not end up being support for me. I think in part because of the rapidity of the lines, they just lost their meaning. If it was like, if you had selected, this is just me, right? If you had selected one or two that had been in rotation, then and had them slowly sort of envelop the group, that would have landed with me differently. But the constant rotation of them lost their impact on me. And so I wasn't able to sort of grasp it as support. Um, but that's just me.
Yeah. Yeah. Carolyn, that on the last piece, that's also, it's really helpful to hear in that for you and for the group, right? Like knowing when you're in this fight for, right? Like as you're making the investment in the time with the people closest to you, right? Of like, what is it that you need, and getting specific, right? Like, I don't need generalities, or like, or maybe it's helping you get more clear on that particular support. And I
Mhm.
will say, facilitating this is my first time facilitating a group through this. Usually it's like one-on-one. So you
Mhm.
get to shape exactly the kind of allyship you would want in those kind of moments.
Mhm.
So that's helpful too, of like, how would I facilitate that different, knowing that piece that could pull some of you away from center. So I appreciate that. And
Eh,
this
I,
move, oh yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Rose. I will say that it didn't pull me away from center.
Mhm.
It just didn't help ground me.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I appreciate that. Yeah. And the movement too, of just like, what does movement do from center? Right. And so that's like a piece to be mindful of if you were to just play around with this practice again. Can I move in fighting for and still stay on center? So it's not a movement of really going forward, right? But it's like, whoa, where did my legs go, right? And it sounds like you found that kind of like Goldilocks move in that.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Amy, I saw you moving too, so I don't know if that was similar for you as well. It looked like a dance move a little bit. Yeah.
You're muted, Amy. Oh,
I was moving because I was also singing softly the song and feeling myself like flying. So
Yeah.
I was having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Maybe we can add this song to our repertoire,
Yeah. I love that song. That's yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
especially when we can imagine that when we're really aligned with ourselves, we are the wind and the wings. We're everything.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Um, David, I want to make space for you if you want to share as well.
I think the two things that came up for me were um, first, that how easy it was to simulate tension, that my body could get the tension very much easier to simulate tension than to relax in a way. So it's like the need for learning, which I have been since the beginning of this class, to practice relaxing, practice dropping in. That's been a big part of working with you all. And so but I just noticed how quick I could move into tension with a little towel squeezing, and I was like all wrenched up inside.
Mhm.
And then I was shocked at how you saying those words actually reminded me. It was like in between each time, I'd forgotten that those things help me relax. So you're saying, let go, deepen, then I would do it. And I was like, oh, how did I just forget that? And because it
Mhm.
made a difference. So it was very interesting that it seemed to help to have an external source saying that, because I got very easily distracted or very much drawn into the tension. And I didn't feel like there was a lot going on, dignity and the commitment and the tension. And I felt like there was a lot going on, but I felt like I was easily distracted. And then when I got the reminder, I could do it. So
Yeah.
I was curious.
Yeah, it's interesting, like to go around in a cycle and the way that we did it, where it's like, oh, then your words are coming up and how that can bring you back in. And, you know, exploring how that relates to the commitment of that connection, right, with others. And maybe again, like, and this is just a reminder for the group, like, if those words really did serve to support you in fighting for, of like who could be that spirited ally, right? And
Mhm.
it's there's another activity I like doing. We won't do it in this particular program, but it's called embodied allyship, and it's
Mhm.
just that reminder of like, if we're receiving allyship, we're not passive in like what comes our way. We get to shape it. And so that's just a reminder for all of us. Like, as you continue to work, who might be that particular person that could show up in the ways that you need them to, even if it's, again, it doesn't have to be words, it could be just presence, right? So really be an exploration with that collectively, for this group of like, what is that kind of support as I invest more of myself in showing up as this version that I feel called to be in the stage of my life. Yeah, thank you for sharing. I think everyone had an opportunity to go, right? Or any other final thoughts before we move forward? Okay. Okay. So for this next hour, I want to touch lightly on like positive grief. And I know that might sound weird as we're kind of focusing on like welcoming in this most truest version of ourselves, and that like I think it's important to be aware that grief can show up. So there's a graphic that I think does an okay job. This is something I'm adapting for the book that will come out soon. But I wanted to show this to you as I go through a few things, and then we'll pause, and I just want to see how this lands. So we'll have a little discussion before we go into our final activity for today. So just bear with me for one moment. Okay. All right. So what you all are seeing up on the screen is this is an artist created this, and I don't know who to credit here, but this is an artist on Pinterest. And I thought this was really great because I wasn't really satisfied with the Kubler-Ross stages of grief, because I think there's more that's happening here than just that. And so um, where we begin here is like where you were, at least as we've worked together as a body 5 weeks ago, kind of like that most recent version of yourself is kind of like entering into this cycle. And so I also pulled up this picture because I want to remind you of like, hey, that was us 5 weeks ago. So if you could see that picture and just take a look at yourself, right? And to see your shape, and take that in, right? As you kind of notice where you are today, um, that version of yourself is no more, right? Like here you are, right? And here you are in the present. So that picture is at your back, right? So I want to pull this image back up. So that was here, right? And somewhere in this cycle, here you are, right? And, obviously we're not losing a person in our life, right? We're letting go of that old version of ourselves. So it's not necessarily a bad thing, and grief can still show up. Um, and so it's just to kind of remind us, and this actually comes from Elizabeth Kubler-Ross and David Kessler. So it was from their book in 2005, All About Grief. And so I just want to read it out loud, and I'll pop it in the chat too, if you want to take a look at the words and just see how this lands in your body with where you're at now. Okay, so here it is in the chat. You will heal and you will rebuild yourself around the loss you've suffered, or the positive loss, I guess, in this case, and you will be whole again, but you'll never be the same. Right. So I'll read that again. You will heal and you will rebuild yourself around the loss you've suffered. You will be whole again, but you'll never be the same. And so it might be hard to square this because this is talking from a place of suffering. And this particular grief is still showing up for us in a positive sense, right? And somewhere in this cycle, right, which is facilitating your transformation, right? You might find maybe you're working actively on your commitment, and it might be a dip. It might be a moment where it's like, this is not showing up in the way that I want it to. Or maybe you're kind of more on the other side. You're starting to see some hope. You're starting to see some maybe you're getting feedback from other people of like, hey, you're showing up in a different way, right? So I just want you to kind of track where you're at, and also recognize this isn't linear. You're not just going to go through the cycle once and you'll be out of it, right? So you can kind of see closer in. There's a lot happening here, but there's repetition, and the repetition is through the somatic practices that you're doing. And as I'll continue to say, like, somatics really loves repetition because our bodies move super slow, and our minds move really, really quick, right? And so there is a little bit of a disconnect. I like this image too. I think you all know that I'm trans, and so when I went through my gender transition, this was in my early 20s. um, I definitely went from here and I kind of popped out on the other side. But what no one told me about was that positive grief and how that would show up, right? So there was some grieving of, how people related to me, and how that changed, right? And so, you know, you know, this isn't about gender transition in this program, right? But you are emerging as someone that's different, and people may relate to you differently in your life, right? And so, so I wanted to offer that up for you. and just kind of recognize too, like when you started this program here, right, there was a reason why you signed up for this, right? Maybe it was like some kind of career pivot, a new chapter in your life. Maybe you're navigating another major life transition of somehow, right? But the truth remains the same, is that, you know, if you continue with these practices and you're honoring that dignity of what you're fighting for, somehow this is going to pop up, and it's a reminder of having that self-compassion for yourself, of like, oh, especially in those moments where you feel like I'm not transforming the way that I want to. um like, you're not getting this wrong, you're growing, your vision is alive, and you're in the soup of it. And I can share with you, in my life right now, I feel like I might be like right here in the surrender. I feel like I'm in the black slime of the caterpillar cocoon, right? So just kind of like note where you might be in this particular moment, and know that it's probably going to shift and change over time, and that all of those feelings are right and dignified. We want to dignify where you're at in this process. And then the other piece too, and then I want to kind of open it up to reactions of what you might be feeling or noticing in yourself, is that um the ego, right, is not designed to let go of like identities that we're attached to. It's like biologically wired to steadfastly hang on to it. And so, if a heavy wave of grief or loss shows up for you, it's just kind of like take a deep breath and just let the resistance like be with that, right? Like in this kind of twisting of the towel, like just notice like if there's that resistance there. Um, and that, this could be one of the heavier costs of the emergence of you coming out on the other end of this cycle. So I can leave this up on the screen if it's helpful. I mean, there's a lot that's happening in the image. I will share this as a resource at the end of the program. So if you find it to be helpful, take a look at it. I think it's so dynamic, and I feel like we could probably spend 2 hours just discussing this. And so I want to take a look at the screen. Is it helpful to leave this up on the screen as we kind of make some meaning? I have a few questions. So you want to leave it up on the screen? Okay, I see head nods. All right. So my first question is like, just feel for yourself right now, and where might you be in this cycle? Again, this is positive grief, so it's slightly different in terms of how it's described as losses, right? But just where might you be at this stage of the journey? Also noting it's week 5, right? I mean, transformation takes time, especially somatically, right? So um yeah, so that's the first question. Like, what's kind of popping up for you right now? Where were you then? Where are you now? Maybe another question to feel into is like, what version, like that future version of yourself, what still feels like it's on the distant horizon, right? So I'll put these in the chat. And if that feels too risky too, we can zoom out and just like, how does this connect to how you're making sense of the process, right? So if there's just like things that pop out to you of like, huh, okay, this is different.
I'll go ahead and share. For me, this sort of represents to me my CEO journey. So I'm drawn to the left side right now a little bit more of where I feel like where I'm at. I feel like I started this program in the middle of this, so I feel like I did a lot of the right-hand side last year, and this year is all about the left-hand side. And I've already started in multiple like ways some of these, even into the action and planning. Um, I resonate with the repetition thing because it's like the repetition within, right? I have
Yeah.
hope today, and then I shared a little, and then I went down to faith, and then, it's not linear, as you said. But I feel like I dealt with a lot of the like, I'm no longer an employee, I'm a leader of an organization. And that's sort of where I see my journey within this is that I joined this group closer to the left-hand side and wanting to have that stronger new life. And I see my path going that direction, and I do see some of that happening. So that's um, there's still more like the third question you have here. Um, if I'm going to respond to your questions here, who were you then? It was like I was a scared employee heading into CEOville, not sure what I'm doing,
Mhm.
and just like blindly figuring it out, with some support, of course. Who are you now? I sort of went through a bunch of that, like annoyance and anger and frustration of like, am I really leading these people? And then into, you know what? I am leading these people, yes. And like feeling like I can, feeling excitement around that instead of fear or inability. I feel like I do have the ability and I do have some of those things, that faith and hope that can lead towards the action and planning.
Yeah. Yeah. Mary, thank you for sharing that and just that awareness of like really being clear of like I'm pretty sure I was like right in the center starting the program and where you're at now.
Mhm.
And also recognizing you're gonna go in and out.
Right. Yes.
And yeah, I appreciate that. And I think that that's helpful for me and just kind of like how I relate to what is up on the screen. And there's a lot. Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious for other folks. Is that similar for you, or are you having a different experience as you take in this illustration?
I can share that I always appreciate I'm interested in the cyclic nature of life. So I really do think cycles work better for me than linear. Like I'm here and I'm trying to get here. So I like cycles. And I think one of the cycles that I'm always approached with, because I'm a coach and a therapist and a trainer, is like people want to change something. They want to be more successful in this, or they want to let go of something, or they want, so they're always like at some point in their cycle where they don't like something and they want to move into a new space or something, almost always. So I'm very comfortable being approached by people in some form of cycle who are not aware of the elements of the cycle that they are not paying attention to, or they're missing, or most likely they're dismissing those elements of the cycle, which is keeping them stuck in one element or another. So, for instance, they're not present to grief because they're like, why can't I change this? And why is this not going? But they're not acknowledging the loss of it, even because they relate to it like, I want to change this, so why would I be grieving? So I'm used to helping people see the parts of this cycle that they don't that need to be acknowledged for them to move through it and for them to acknowledge their movement. And what I like about it for myself is that every time I'm in, especially the grief, the part of it where I'm in the helplessness and the hopelessness and the depression, the despair part of it, which is really there no matter what, it often doesn't, you often can't articulate it that way because people are so afraid of those words.
Mhm.
Easier to say them around death, but not around other deaths in your life. So, but I experience them, and I just get a chance to remind myself how what I'm asking people to do is difficult and it's really challenging, and it really does feel like death, even though they may be grieving about something they want to let go, or they've something, it really does feel like death. And so I just want to acknowledge that, yeah, I feel like there's changes in my life that are happening. And I think I'm right at the, you know, I'm trying to get to quit fighting.
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
but I'm feeling a lot of death and just trying to presence that.
Mhm.
Um, so that I can move into the deepen and let go, which is why I needed that reminder from you.
Mm-hmm. David, thank you for sharing that. And uh, yeah, I think that on the right hand side, it's hard in this work, right? And as a coach, you're facilitating transformation for people all of the time who just want to be here. They start here and let's go here right away. And to presence some of the harder things to acknowledge is really important, especially I think for any of us here where we feel we're struggling because we might be on this side and it's hard to recognize that's part of the progress, right? Like not in a linear way, but just it's a part of the cycle of kind of going around who am I, who am I being, and how does that align with how I want to be moving forward, right? And it's this it's I think it's like a cycle of refinement because we're always in transition. We're always, right? Like what's at our back, like this moment will be at our back in the next minute, right? And so it's like there's many cycles and then there's big cycles. And so it's just it's a really complicated illustration, and I think it's helpful of just acknowledging and having that appreciation of wherever you are right now. So I thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe to hear from like one or two other people before we move into the wisdom part of where we're going to go. How does this relate? Like any contrast or any other thoughts that you feel will be helpful for the group, and also just to hear where you're at as well.
Is it okay to make what I think are off topic,
Yes,
comments? I wrote down two things that made me think of. I have a tab in my browser open right now to go back and read, but James Baldwin talking about the value of suffering, arguing that suffering that everybody experiences is what keeps people bound together. And that's why so that idea, which I would have said, if we, the point of life should be to reduce suffering. So it threw me for a loop that he made the argument, but I want to go back and read more about how suffering just makes us more connected to one another, the common experience. But hopefully not unnecessary suffering. We should always be trying to reduce that anyway. And then the other thing, so for example, public speaking might be intimidating, but there might be that you're just not good at public speaking. It makes a big difference who the audience is. If it's a friendly, warm, inviting, inclusive audience, the anxiety level is way less than indifferent or hostile audience. And I think just the reminder that we have so much control, but then the environment of the people who we interact with. As an extreme example, if the people in the Trump administration were my family, I would never feel okay. And it's just that reminder to me as I try to sort things. Not every relationship is going to be good because I can't ensure that because of the other person. So how to work through that in terms of just recognizing how much control I have is something that this made me think about.
Sarah, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing both the suffering component of what you've read in James Baldwin's work and how that brings us together, and also like what you were talking about with like members of your family where you feel like maybe you can't share more, right? In terms of maybe this work. And I'm reiterating that because in that spirited commitment to dignity and what you are requesting of an ally to hear is an invitation of seeking out people where you can freely share maybe more of this work, to get that support, and especially if you find yourself more on that right hand side. I'm just kind of curious like how that lands. Is that something that connects to, yeah.
I don't think I just described the Trump administration analogy so well. It's okay. To me, I mean, I think objectively, they're just a group of horribles. And if the goal in life is to want to get along with people, that's just impossible. And this might be very basic, and just recognizing there's only so much I can do to feel good about this.
I
The
see.
environment will not, you can feel utterly crazy if that's all you're hearing from.
Yeah.
Gaslit,
Mhm.
malevolence. How do you stay steady when if that's if they're when they're as we're having that's a dominant influence.
Yeah. 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 Thank you for sharing, Sarah. Just Carolyn, if you have to drop, thank you for being here. And Sarah, yeah, the what you're sharing about the kind of like political differences, again, like in this work, it's finding like the support, right? Like being with people that are able to ally with you in this moment. And that's maybe the invitation of recognizing like maybe not all audiences will be able to show up in the ways that you need in this work.
Or maybe changing expectations of sometimes you're just that you can only control so much, and don't let it take too much out of you if you um can't resolve something. If there's only so much you've got the ability to change with respect to interpersonal or even environmental relationships. Sorry for the detour.
Yeah, I think it's great. I guess I have a question for you in that the control piece is, do you like on this particular illustration, is the quit fighting or out of surrender, is that a component that feels that it resonates with where you're at as you share this?
Quit fighting in with context. I think not feeling badly that you couldn't make it better. Someone in the context of an interview with the author of Adult Children of Immature Parents, I think is the name of the book.
Mhm.
We hadn't read the book, but the comment was, when you're told as a kid that you should feel this way about your parents, but you're just like, I got to cut ties,
Mhm.
then you feel like you're wrong. And I think that feeling of I'm wrong also shows up in corporate environments where there's a lot of toxicity.
Yeah.
Like, why couldn't I figure this out?
Yeah.
So that probably would be in quit fighting and just recognizing it's not really something you can keep steady and stay grounded in your values, but you're not gonna it's not the type of thing you just fix, and just recognizing that.
Yeah. 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 I mean, I think that's good noticing for you. And uh kind of the invitation here is to bring that back into the commitment that you're working on, right? And see how that can help. That recognition of letting go of control might allow you to continue moving in that direction, and just notice how that relates to some of this resistance, right, that you might notice. If that's helpful, just trying to connect it back to the.
Yeah. Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah,
It is.
appreciate the share. Okay. Any final thoughts on this illustration or grief, the positive grief in general? And I thank you all for just letting me kind of facilitate this part, and spending a little bit of time of just looking at that illustration of mapping where we are. Okay. All right. Okay. So the last piece I wanted to cover is around the somatic resume, the mapping your wisdom, like where you're at right now in the process. And there's one other visual I want to pop up on the screen. And this relates to that role that I asked you to bring into the session, or a recent project, right? And it might be your current role. So it's not too much of overthinking, but just choosing one particular role, one particular identity that you hold. And I want to go back to the screen too. So hang on one second here. Okay. Um, so this is the somatic wisdom resume. And what we're going to be doing is just recognizing one, that we're in an age where AI is moving really quickly. And for a lot of us, I know many of you all are in thought leadership positions, right? So AI can basically kind of consolidate a lifetime of your work in a matter of seconds, right? And I know that that can strike up a lot of fear for people of like, am I going to be irrelevant? Or what does this actually mean? And this is an activity to remind us all that there's no machine learning, there's no algorithm, there's no technology that can ever replace the wisdom, that kind of inner knowing that lives in your tissues, all that's at your back, right? And this is earned, right? It's earned through your lifetime. It's earned through the unique path that you've traveled, only you have traveled in this particular lifetime. And so when I'm using the word wisdom here, it's more than just thought, right? It's the physical home. It lives in your nervous system. And throughout the program, right, like we are trying to facilitate a kind of transformation here, and you're practicing it. You're practicing it in that visual that we just looked at. Somewhere you're in that cycle, somewhere you're in the process. And the whole purpose of somatics is not just to regulate a nervous system, it's to have the capacity for more life. It's to have the capacity to be in this body and to be connected to that inner wisdom, that inner knowing. So positive grief, we don't want that to cloud the gains that we're making, right? So even though we just spent some time talking about the grief, we don't want that to get in the way of like, okay, like where am I at? And am I moving in the direction of what I long for? And so this particular activity is going to help us just to kind of chart, like, where are we at now? And like, what are we learning from this experience? And it's a way of just kind of reverse engineering some of the wisdom, like of finding it in your body by looking at how you may already be in certain states, how you've kind of been in a state in the past, that it's in alignment with the vision that you're moving forward to. And so how this works is the first piece is just for you to center around, right? We've been up here a lot. And so the invitation is just to kind of come back into the tissues, and if you'd like, you could say it out loud or just write it down, but bring to mind your commitment, your vision. And I would love for you all to maybe in the chat, if you'd like, just type out like the role or the position that you brought into this session um, with the question that I had asked you to bring, like what's a role or what's a particular project that you'd like to kind of work through this wisdom resume. So if you want, you could pop it in the chat. You don't have to, but I'm kind of curious what people are bringing in. I'm going to grab some water if you're typing. Cool. All right. So Mary's bringing in the CEO role, and it's your current role, right? Yeah. So let's just. I'm going to bring in my current role as well. And as folks are sharing in the chat, once you have that role in mind, we're going to move into this core section of looking at like what's the wisdom here, what's the strength that we've gained from this particular role, right? And we're looking at embodied states. So again, it's just like with somatics, it's the physical sensations that you can deliberately access and you can amplify to generate, right, a presence, the way that you're showing up. It may have contributed to a success, right? But there was a certain state behind an outcome or a skill that you would write on a traditional resume. That's what we're getting at. Yeah, David, thank you. The role is spiritual and therapeutic partner with those seeking individual transformation that's supported by a loving community, right? So that's like current role, right? So again, like what's the role that you're bringing into this particular activity? And you're welcome to share in the chat. And there's many states that you likely have in these roles, right? So I'm just going to ask you to kind of hone in on one particular state, right? Like one particular state that you can come to mind, that will help you kind of move in the direction of that version of yourself on the distant horizon. And so that's the question for this first part of this section, is just to kind of jot down, like, what is that one state that you've cultivated? Like, where do you feel it in the body? And like, how could you apply this to generate, to move in that direction of your vision? That's the application, right? It's like, if I were able to turn this up by 10% more, right? Like, I'm bringing that version of myself into focus. So it's again, like, that wisdom is already here. Like, there's a way of an inner knowing of how to access that because you've done it before. And so, like, I just, for each one of these sections, I'm sharing this up um, on the screen. So for me, in this kind of role that I'm in right now, being calm and grounded is really, really helpful, especially in moments of uncertainty. It's just kind of like, can I feel into my feet? Can I find this regulated state? And where I feel it in the body, right? It's just like there's a heaviness, right? My jaw is more relaxed. I can notice my heartbeat in a different way. And when I apply this, it really helps me connect with the people that I'm serving, the people that I'm working with. And so, yeah. And Sarah, thank you for sharing your role too. So, senior manager at a company, in particular, interacting authentically with other senior managers. So the question here, right, is what's a state that you've accessed in the past, right, that allows you to be successful in these particular roles that you have in mind, that will help you move closer to your vision. And I want to leave some space here for people to share, just to hear from a little more voice diversity. So what's a state that comes to mind, right? Like, you can already wear this, you have access to it, and if you turned it up a little bit more, it moves you in that direction of your vision. So what's a state? I mean, feel it in your body, right? When you think of these roles, what's one state? Yeah, Amy. So you say state of love, kindness to apply with my clients to embody their true, unshakable self-worth. So Amy, if you were to write this like on, just to kind of like put it up on the wall, right? Where do you feel that in your body? Where do you know, like, you felt this before when you work with your clients? How do you know when you have access to it? Where does it live?
Is that a question to answer now or?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it in my like heart, my heart center expanding.
Yeah. Yeah. So is it like more of like a width for you, or yeah?
This is a very big, like an opening. That's a yes. I can't necessarily describe it, but there's a certain feeling I get when something's 100% true. I'm
Yeah.
sure other people here feel those. I don't know, everybody might experience it differently, but there's a certain sensation.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit indescribable, but kind of like the way the new iPhones, like they go, it's a little bit like that. I'm like, okay, if someone either says a complete truth or I'm feeling something beautiful flowering and blossoming. So it's a feeling that I feel like the heart expands, but it's a little bit more expansive.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's like, it's a buzzing sensation all over. And again, this is a state you've already accessed. So being able to turn this up more moves you in the direction of your commitment, right? No matter the challenges coming your way. And David, you shared the state of being centered and present and breathing consciously. So I'm guessing like the breathing comes from the lungs, right? And that centeredness, like, how do you know when you're on center? Like, where does that live in your body?
I feel it in more the front of my chest, but it's also moving outwards, like um, is that was that Wendy sharing? It's kind of going out, and
Oh, yeah, what Amy was sharing. Yeah.
Amy, Amy was sharing. And then I also feel like grounded and centered in the hip area, like my hips feel grounded and centered. My chest feels like it's opening forward and extending outward.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, right, like when you're in that state, right, like this is a state when you turn it up, it moves you in the direction of your vision, right?
Yeah.
And so that centered state of finding that connection, that intimacy with others, right? Like that's something that you know you can access, and you've done
Mm-hmm.
it before, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, that's for the sake of like why we're doing this section, is like these are our strengths. We know that we already have it, right? So give yourself some time with this, to kind of write down, like right now you're writing down one, hopefully, but deepen into this. Maybe think of two, maybe three at most, that you have this worksheet as something to remind you, especially in states of, in being in the grab or being stirred. So that's the first place where we go. The second place, this is the one that will probably take the most time to really play with. And we already have explored this a bit in the grab and the center activity. So this again is like you're naming the role, right? You've already named that in the chat. And what's the challenge in the role that you're in right now, or the one that you have written down? Like, what's the big challenge for you, when it comes to the day to day, the challenge that might get in the way of being this version of yourself that you're welcoming in? So that's the question. Is just like, maybe consider I put something up here around sales. Like, it's not my favorite thing, but when I remember, like, if I talk about the things that I like to do, that's a little bit different. But you're going to name the challenge, and then there's a blend practice. Like, what do you do, or what could you do, right? So this might not already exist. So this is the bridge. Like, once you name the challenge, what could you do, not to push the challenge away, but just to acknowledge it and be with it. And so the example that I share up on the screen is just, when a challenge is coming my way, I have a potential client, and I'm starting to feel off center. It's like, I know that if I play a certain song, I think I put like Eye of the Tiger up there. I know it's cheesy, but it's like, okay, like I'm feeling in my body. Okay. Like I'm remembering like this, oh, wait, I do have access to this calm state. And right, like the nerves are there, they're there for a reason. And so it's just to thank them, of like, this is important, it's reminding me this is important. And so how do I work with that energy? And that's the outcome, is like, how do you blend with what is there without denying it? So kind of going back to that, the cycle that we just saw, the loss cycle, as David was sharing earlier, working with clients, like, how do you just acknowledge, like, okay, that's a challenge, right? And not to shame it, not to kind of push it away, but how do you blend with it? So this is one where I'm curious if something comes to mind. I'd love to maybe hear from one person, if you'd like to share, if you're if going into that grab practice was really, potent for you. If you'd like to share, maybe just the challenge, and if you want some support around a blend, we can talk through that. Yeah, so it's just reflecting like the role you're in, or the role you have, and a particular challenge that pops up.
I can share if no one else
Yeah,
wants to.
thank you, Mary.
So one of the challenges at role as CEO, one of the challenges I've come up against is if I'm making some decisions and rolling it out to my team, and then they have some pushback on those decisions or like more questions or like um, they're fighting against it in whatever way. Um, that's the challenge. And I often, the first thing I end up doing, or I used to do a lot more often, is a defensiveness and a need to over explain or like fix the situation of like hurrying up to like explain or like work my way around it. But something I've been doing differently lately, so that was the challenge in the felt state, and that's it's more of a tension in my body of like and like feeling of like, oh no, maybe I made that like self-doubt
Mm-hmm.
um, for myself. And then what I've been doing more often is like stopping, like instead of feeling instead of going straight towards defensiveness and self-doubt, I just stop and listen, ask a few more questions. I breathe. I stop and like, if I'm in, it's usually in the middle of a conversation. So sometimes it's hard to like do an actual practice, but the
Yeah.
pause is really important for me because it allows me to gather my thoughts, but also really like part of the outcome is really hearing them,
Mm-hmm.
hearing what like where they're coming from, because I want to have make them feel valid. Like just because I'm leading this company doesn't mean I'm a dictator. So
Mm-hmm.
I do want those opinions or thoughts. So just really hearing them, um, and being able and because I'm able to hear them, listen to what they're saying, and ask a few more questions, then I even drop more into my body of like, now how can I authentically answer them
Mm-hmm.
in that way? Um, and that has led to so much better outcomes than me pushing against it and fighting against it and um, defensiveness and self-doubt and like sometimes caving into them, right?
Yes.
So,
Yeah. 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 And that, so the blend practices like the breathing, the slowing down, like really listening. And and how does that like for the outcome, in terms of like moving in the direction of your vision? Could you share just a little bit about like that last piece?
yeah, um, m my vision is to be in the flow, living with ease and being guided by my intuition. And so the outcome for me in this scenario would be um, instead of tightening up, like literally sitting back, like I literally sat back physically in my chair in this moment and said, "Tell me more about that."
Yeah.
And then it allowed them to be heard, which
Yes.
is also what I want. And I want to live like in an ease rather than a fight.
Yes. Yeah. So it's in alignment with that ease, and it helps kind of connect with the team, right? And probably
Yes.
bring out an actual outcome for what you're working on in terms of,
And it's usually better
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I often go towards consensus decision making, but I know that there needs to be a leader at the same time. So
Mhm.
pausing, hearing them, sitting back for a second, and then letting my intuition come in and be able to either explain why I'm making this decision, which helps them along in their journey,
Yeah.
and go, oh, okay, I get that now. I can buy into that.
Yeah.
Or they can say what they've heard, and I can say, oh, I didn't think about that. Let me come back to you with another answer, or I have the answer right now, or that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Bye, David. Thank you for being here. Yeah. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon. Um, there's Thank you also, Mary, for sharing on that piece. So I know this is like I struggle with facilitating this part of the program because it gets us here. And so the invitation, right? Like it's a matter of being able to really track, like where are you at in this process? And what you're offering, Mary, is like you've noticed in this grab what happens in particular, like with your team, and what brings you back to center. That's effectively what this piece is here, is like what is your grab, what brings you back to center to blend with like what is activating you without ignoring it. And then what is the result, right? So so it's helpful to kind of facilitate now of like, oh, like maybe I can clarify this a bit. I really encourage you. I know like worksheets don't work for everyone. Spend some time with this so that you can honor the growth that you're seeing in this work, even over 5 weeks. That's my request. It's in the online portal. I recognize not everybody wants to jump in there all the time, but this is for your own enrichment to see. Like you're investing this time, you're investing these resources. So I want you to kind of honor where you're at and that you are moving in that direction. The last two pieces is this areas for growth and what support do you need for that growth. And what I mean by that is um, in moments where like I might have conflict, like I use sales calls, but maybe there's a conflict with an actual client, like I can go into a freeze state. Like that's something that I know is present if I'm not conscious and I'm not grounded. But there's body signals that will tell me like, oh, you're freezing right now. Um, and I know where it gets activated. If there's big emotions coming at me, it's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm afraid I'm going to break this relationship. Right. And so the outcome is that pattern gets in the way of really like, Mary, what you're talking about, really listening to like, what's the lesson here? How can I just take this in and be with what's offered without trying to react to it, or ideally trying to have like the perfect response when I'm just uncertain in those moments. So I know for me, that's an area of growth. And so in this work, spend some time with how can somatics help me in something that I'm aware of that I do. Maybe you get feedback from a colleague, or it's just a part of what's getting in the way of your vision. That's what this section is about. And the very last section is just like, what's the practice that will help you move through that? And so for me, it's just naming like, oh, I'm doing that thing again. I'm frozen. Like I'm not sure in this moment, right? But like when I freeze, like I know what I can do in that moment is just to verbalize like, hey, there's a lot of big feelings here. Let's just take a moment. I'm going to need a moment. Hey, I need to go to the bathroom, right? So that's what I mean by a toolkit, is not necessarily like what's a book that I'm going to read, but like what's an actual practice I can do that's going to honor, right? It's going to honor what's popping up in terms of the area of growth that's getting in the way of my vision. This is the most abstract part of the work that we're doing together. And like this week is about transformation. So I was trying to come up with a way to gauge like, where are you at? And like, can you start to see some of these mileposts where it's like you're moving in that direction, right? So I'm going to stop here with the 4 minutes we have left, just to kind of see where you're at. Like, check in with your body right now. Like, how much up here, like on a scale of 0 to 10, with like 0 being like totally in the brain and 10 being totally in the body, can you give me a number with where you're at right now? Because this will help me in facilitating this particular workshop moving forward.
I'd say half and half.
5. Yeah. Okay. All right. Sarah, where are you at?
I'm probably 3.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No. It's
Oh,
I was -2 at the beginning, so
okay.
it's just a challenge for me to get out of my head. A lifetime of going that way.
Totally. Wendy, where are you at? No comment. Pleading the fifth. Okay.
Now I'm as far as from there till now,
Mm-hmm.
um, started this process and I was really uh excited and anticipatory. And then I had 2 weeks in the middle where I was in despair for my own life. And today I feel like I've come back into myself again. Part of it is coming back to Portland and coming back to my own roots here. And I feel today has been enlightening. I don't know, it's another word for it. So I don't know if there's a number for that, but today I feel like I've come back, just come back, and
Awesome.
it feels good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's good to know. That's good to know. Thank you. And Amy, where like 0 to 10, like for this session, where are you at?
I think I'm kind of in Wendy's
category, and I feel very grounded and whole, present. And one thing also, aside, it's not a small aside from us being together, and everybody here has really brought so much, like, just truth and just beautiful vulnerability. And whether you're feeling, anything, any feeling that has been shown up has been with such, like, tenderness and care.
Mm.
And so when I say aside, it's not a small aside. But I also noticed that I've been intentional about what I allow myself, what meetings, and the I've just been a lot more discerning about what voices are even in my sphere, if I can control that.
Yeah.
And that has contributed greatly. So this practice that we've had has helped me have a quicker response within myself when there's something knocking saying, you're off center now.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate you all just kind of sharing in this moment, like after this like more heady activity. Um, right? Like the overall, it sounds like the somatics is helping you show up in different ways. So that is my goal. I think I would facilitate today slightly different so that we're not here. Like my whole goal for you all is to remain in the body. So where we're going to go next week is completion. So I want you, like, in between where we are now and next Thursday, like, what is your relationship to endings, right? Like, what's the relationship of like graduation, maybe at the end of a retreat? Like, what's the kind of natural kind of shape that you find yourself in? Are you kind of like first in, first out? Are you kind of like first in, last out? Like, um, and we're going to explore that next week. There's going to be a practice that we do called rowing that we'll spend probably the first hour after centering, really exploring, like, you know, do I like the kind of awakening, the increasing, the containment, or am I good with endings? And then we're going to relate it to a ritual of sorts for the last hour of like, how do we continue this work? How do we support each other on the journey that we are? And so that's where we're headed. I do want to remind you, please check out the online portal because there is a practice around grief that we didn't have the opportunity to do today. And I think that will be helpful, particularly if you happen to be on the right side of that kind of cycle of loss. Is just like, how do you honor this positive grief that's here? So if it's helpful, please check it out. And as always, I'm so grateful for each of you all. And thanks for sticking around a little bit longer. I'm looking forward to seeing you next Thursday. So thanks for being here. And I'm going to stop the recording. If you have any questions,